Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and today we are diving deeper into our ongoing series, Healing Beyond Betrayal. And today we are joined by our esteemed resident therapist, Dr. William Washington, where we're going to explore the transformative role of therapy in many of the wounds of betrayal. But before we bring Dr. Will to the stage, you know how we do it. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, Dr. Will is going to join us on this conversation, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks, here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back. Hey, my beautiful souls, this is your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks, and I am excited to share something special with you. Introducing my latest ebook workbook, Healing Beyond the Betrayal, a journey of growth, empowerment, and renewal. In these 55 pages, I offer you insight, heartfelt stories, and practical worksheets designed to guide you on your healing journey. So if you experience betrayal or you are seeking personal growth, this resource is made just for you. You see, it's time to reclaim your power and embrace renewal. So you can get your copy by visiting the seasonofselflovepodcast.com. And as a thank you for being part of our community, use the code HEALED09 at checkout to enjoy a 15% discount. So let's embark on this journey together because you deserve to heal, grow, and thrive. What are some common barriers that prevent people from expressing? Hey, it's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here from the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Yeah, I would say remorse. So shame and guilt is a very dividing emotional.
Now, these are one of the many amazing conversations that we have every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast with myself, Nyomi Banks, as well as our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington of Washington Wellness Institute. Come by.
The reality of our relationships with people.
Come by.
And a lot of times we're afraid of how people look at us. And so that compassion can't enter.
You can hit us on the website, the Season of Self-Love podcast.com.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. Again, I am your host, Nyomi Banks. Here I have Dr. Will. Hey, Dr. Will.
It feels so good to see you. How have you been?
Been so great, so great. What I tell you, I love doing this shit.
All right, this is who you be. This is who you be.
This is who I be. This is who I be. You know, one thing is that I'm so happy to be back. And this month's series has been truly amazing. The guests that's been coming on and sharing their amazing stories and their journey and healing and living in their purpose and all of those good things. They've just been amazing, truly amazing. So yeah, got some good here. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, you're bringing some good people. So I'm really I'm here. This is even better. I love being here.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I honestly, might have to bring this back around next year, this same series, because I still have so many people that's in my portal that want to get on,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, but not now. I have to, kind of take my time to do it.
Well, look. We believe in quality over quantity,
Yeah,
right?
most
So
definitely. Most
that's it.
most definitely. Most definitely. Most definitely. Most definitely. But you know how I do it. We're gonna center ourselves first before we get into this topic. And then we're gonna let it go, right? All right, so listeners, please get yourself comfortable and prepared. Close your eyes. Let's go. Please find a comfortable position. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale with 6 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, as you continue this breathing pattern, I want you to imagine yourself in a safe space, a sanctuary of healing and acceptance. And where every breath releases pain, I want you to welcome peace and love. Now I want you to do one last deep breath in through your nose. 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Now release slowly from your mouth. 6 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Now just roll your shoulders back like that. Wiggle your arms. Now open your eyes. All right. Well, welcome back. First of all, thank you all for just sharing this moment with me. And if you're new here to the Season of Self Love podcast, it's something that we do every day, Monday through Friday here, just to help center ourselves before we get into the topic of hand. All right, Doctor, you ready for this?
I am so ready for this. Let's do this.
You
Let's do
ready?
it.
You ready? You ready? All right. With your rich background on psychology, numerous accolades, all of that, and you're specialized. For you, could you share just a bit about your journey that specialized in betrayal trauma? I know we talked about before about the trauma, and I know you work with a lot of children as well,
Hmm.
adolescents with that one. Could you share, of your journey in specializing with that, using, some of those um,
Yeah.
patients? Yeah.
Yeah. So what I found was, I joined because I wanted to understand trauma. I wanted to understand identity. I wanted to understand why we act or how we become the way based upon how we were treated in our lives. And for me, I always learned that the more you tell your story, the less you become of it. And so I learned that the narrative therapy approach was always really a really beautiful way to start learning how to understand betrayal. Because when people would come in with these types of feelings and emotions, it would always, after they told their story, there was another level. And so for me, yes, I learned hypnotherapy. I learned it because I understood that when you age regress, right, and you go younger and younger in age, the youngest part of you has so much betrayal. And
Mhm.
when I learned IFS therapy, the deepest part is the exile wound, which is a childhood wound, right? When I learned, oh my gosh, there's so many I learned. Even in my own model, the first principle is the action is never the reason, which means that what we
Mhm.
do is not because of what's happening, it's because of what we've become, right?
Mm.
And so all of my training and my journey in all this was always a reflection of getting down to the beginning and the source of when the innocence was either taken away, manipulated, or we were taught otherwise.
Mm.
And so for me, the word betrayal, it hits so many psychological realms. And I think that many clinicians even today, they don't even use the word betrayal as much as they usually would. And so I'm really happy why you're bringing this word up, because there's a lineage of traumatic language connected to this word.
Yeah. Yeah. When we spoke earlier this month about the understanding of betrayal, and I believe we talked about the different levels or the different aspects of betrayal on how it come. And you just spoke about the lineage on how betrayal can
Mhm.
be. So I had a conversation with one of our guests that's coming up soon, and she was talking about abandonment. And
Mm,
we talk about abandonment too, on
yeah.
where a part of betrayal kind of comes in from there. And as you said about the childhood wounds and things that are sort of on how we feel with that, what are some of the most common emotional reactions that you see in your practices?
Yes. Some of the most common is, so the word betrayal. When you say the word, it's like an umbrella, right?
Hmm.
And underneath that umbrella, there's all these words,
Yeah,
and distrust, faith, sadness, shame, guilt, embarrassment, right? These words have turned us away from so many people, places, and things that we were actually worthy of, but
yeah,
we felt denied of.
yeah.
So,
Was it last week? Last week, a lady wrote in and she had been listening to the series, and she stated that excuse me, she said, I'm stuck. She felt stuck. I don't know, I'm not going to give you the word for which, but she said, I feel stuck. She said, because I feel ashamed that I was betrayed. I feel ashamed. I feel guilty. She felt all of these things from someone else betraying her. And in response to that, I was telling her, and I shared this with everybody, I think it was last week, that we have to give this word shame a powerful for ourselves. So use shame as one of your swords. You understand?
mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because really this is not your shame. What a lot of people do is they put with their embarrassment and their truth that
yeah.
they're not, their own thing, they put that on
Mhm.
to shame you for
Yes.
it. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. And I gotta say that a lot in IFS therapy, what we call that is a legacy burden, where a lot of
Mm.
times we hold a lot of shame from things that have been passed down to us. And so these
Mhm.
beliefs, these cultural oppressions, these systematic oppressions, a lot of them times we've created these rules for ourselves that
Yeah.
nobody made but us. But because of how it was passed down to us, because of what maybe our parents emotionally never resolved,
Right.
we get taught that, right? So if someone, if you see your parent never speaking up, your parent never told you not to speak up, but you watching that, you end up becoming someone that may never speak up for yourself, because and now you feel like you can't do it anymore. But who told you can't do that? And so
Right.
there's a lot of things that we hold that have been passed down to us that we've made our entire lives.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. It's funny you'd say, I just remember a client that I saw last week, and in the conversation that we were having, very silent. He don't speak a lot. And he's trying to find a more a relationship with his mother,
Mm,
and he's having a disconnect from her, but he loves her. He wants to be there. He wants to make sure that he knows that she's worthy of all of that, but he can't find the words to speak to say to her, because she's always never shut him down, but his older brother.
mm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And by him witnessing and seeing that. But honestly, that was the same thing with my sister, because I was very boisterous on what I wanted to do and say, but then I always got in trouble for it. So my
Ah,
sister was like, I'm not going to say nothing.
yeah, yeah.
You understand? So when you say that, about that, I'm like, wow. And I am so happy that I did not bring that into my children. So I welcome their voices. What I'm saying, I want
Mm-hmm.
to hear what, you know, what's going on with them, because
Yeah.
their language is totally different from
Mm,
what our language is, and understanding is so different from
yeah.
what our understanding is now. And it's exactly when we
Yeah.
talk about abandonment. there's different levels of abandonment when
Right.
it's so many different levels to a lot of these things. But for me, it took me a while to even take that word abandonment and make it a part of a strength for me.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
doesn't look at it that way. You understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And that's what I like about doing these shows here is
Mhm.
because, and I just shared this with somebody else, we might be speaking the same, but we still speak in two different languages. You got your language, I
Right.
got my language. I believe that our assignment and our purpose is about creating bilingual language for everyone to
Mm.
know, because I truly believe that our hearts is supposed to understand bilingual language.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that I love how you say that because even when I'm with my Spanish speaking brothers and sisters and you know, and I don't know what they're always saying, but I can
Feel
feel everything they're saying. And it doesn't I don't have to know every single word, you know.
it. Mhm.
And I think that a lot of times we think that the most intelligent person knows the most, but actually the most intelligent person is the most translatable person.
Mhm.
A true person of intelligence can be translatable to anybody. And
Yeah.
that's and the trueness of that is you learn yourself so well that doesn't matter who you meet because you know
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because we're
Yeah.
all reflections of each other. We're all parts of
Exactly.
each other. We're all fragments of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a true statement. It is. It's true. We could talk about this later, but it is. It's such a true because I'm
Hmm.
telling you, this month has been truly, truly confirmational for me. It's been just a stamp.
Hmm.
Bam. This is where you at. This is the room and spaces that you are supposed to be in right here.
Right.
Whether there's doctors or lawyers or whoever that's in front of you,
Right.
you can sit right there in those rooms with them,
Hmm.
and I saw that, I feel that, like every time I finish with one of my interviews, I feel so much joy when coming off, I'm not drained or nothing like that. It's just like a
Right.
whole different, type of feel, especially when we're talking about this. It's like, and
Hmm.
I'm amazed because they said, well, wow, you're really talking about that. Like I love what you're doing with this podcast. And I'm like, well, there's other self-help love. Like, no, you're
Right.
breaking it down. Like you're breaking it all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you said something earlier about how you were boisterous when you were younger, right? And you wanted to make sure that people heard what you needed.
mm-hmm.
And what you passed down to your children was the fact that they know that they're always going to be heard.
Yeah.
And I just want to acknowledge that. I didn't say anything, but I think that's just was beautiful. That was sitting in my heart. The fact that you gave the thing that the child in you wanted for your children.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's a
Exactly.
legacy gift. That's a legacy
Yeah.
heirloom, truly.
Thank you. I was going to say that. Thank you. It's kind of like the total opposite of what you were saying on how,
Hmm.
when we put shame on others, others putting
Right.
shame on you of certain things or rules that they make, I kind of took off the rules. We have to create our own things. We can't go by what, other people, because it's not doing anything for us. We're left stuck.
Hmm. Right.
And you see that from generation to generation. For you, let's move more talking about the healing process. Could you explain the different therapeutic modules that aid the healing betrayal wound? So I know you got one purposely
Hmm.
that you do. So how can explain it? Explain it. I don't
Yeah,
want
I got you.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. The first thing is you have to understand what triggered the betrayal, right? So I like to work from I like to work backwards, right? So it's like you watch the end of the movie and then we gotta go our way back. And so I like to understand when you first are in that moment of betrayal, the first thing you have to do is understand the power dynamic. What's the dynamic? What's my relationship to this person? What's our power dynamic? Are you above me, under me, with me? What's our relationship? That's the first step. The second step is understanding two, what's my reaction and what is my response, right? So I might have a physical response, emotional response, verbal response. What's my reaction to this, right? What are the behaviors and things that are coming off of me? So what am I giving off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third step is understanding what I really wanted. what I really wanted them to know, right? We got to go back to that innocence, that vulnerability. And it's hard to get to that spot because the last thing you want to do when you're betrayed is be more vulnerable, right? And so you have to make space for that. And so how I look at this is I call it the smoke, the fire in the house, where if there's a fire in the room, right? You smell the smoke first, then you go to the fire, and then you got to look at the logs and what's actually burning. So the smoke is realizing what's the power dynamic, what's the smoke like, what is this thing bringing my attention. You go to the fire. This is really hot. I'm afraid of it. It's the reaction and the response. How is this reacting? What's reacting off of this? And then what's actually burning, right? It's understanding what's the vulnerability that is being triggered inside of me. And so if you look at it from those three levels, it allows you to understand the process of how you got to this point. And this is called a blind spot, right? I didn't realize that this interaction was going to make me be this way. So this is a blind spot, right? And this is a trailhead into something bigger for your own self-awareness. Because my rule is with self-awareness comes emotional responsibility.
Right.
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 And so you're relearning what that might mean to you at a more vulnerable state.
Right. Okay, so let's go to the word vulnerable. And why I want to say this vulnerability, because last week we talked about we had a show about embracing the vulnerability as a strength and not a weakness. So I want to make sure that when our listeners are hearing you, even when you say a vulnerability, could you explain the strength of embracing the vulnerability, even in the statement that you just made before about showing the vulnerability or acknowledging the vulnerability in the layers or the steps that you was just saying?
Yeah, of course. So one of the biggest things is that when it comes to vulnerability, it's not about being open for somebody. It's not about like, oh, I'm just open to everything, and now it's being able to accept who you are, what you've been, and also where you're going. Right? Vulnerability is knowing, hey, this is all I got, this is all I am, and this is what's going on. And a lot of times that level of acceptance, it needs the vulnerability to keep it strong. And sometimes I tell a lot of my Black men, you got to be strong enough to be vulnerable. You got to be strong enough to be vulnerable. And so that's kind of how I see vulnerability. It's the ability to see yourself and to see yourself with others.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I wanted to make sure, because when you just leave it right there and they be like, well, hold on, didn't I just hear Nyomi just talking about, well, no, let's bring this back around so you can get the A side of it. And let's talk about the B side.
Right, exactly. Right. And then go back and listen to it again just to make sure it checks out, just in case. Yeah.
Look, I told y'all I got y'all.
I love how you give them footnotes and it wasn't during the time. That's good. You give them footnotes in the moment. I love it. That's great.
Because honestly, you don't know how, first of all, you don't know where anybody at in this time, even going through this. I have a client right now that's doing the 30-day challenge. And he was very real and open with me when it was a forgiveness challenge that we had to write a letter giving forgiveness to the person who did betrayal to you. And he wrote and he said, that was the hardest thing that I had to do. It's because I did not want to retrace that over again, that hurt that I am going through, in that moment. And I said, but you have to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient because it's like they want that healing right now. And that's not what this is. This is just one part, a tool that you can use, to go through that. So even if you wrote it down, you got it down on a piece of paper now, and you wrote it. All right, now you don't have to act on it at this very moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have to act on that very moment. Now that you have that letter that you've written to that person, you don't even have to give it to them right now. Sit with it for a moment, a month, shit, a year, until you are ready for it, because you still got some healing that you have to do with yourself. It's not, this letter is not about them. The letter is more for you.
Right. And are you ready to be seen this way? Right.
Yes.
Are you ready to be seen this way?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so one thing that he did say, he said, What I'm doing at this moment is I'm finding my peace and sitting in my peace first. Yes, do that.
Mm,
And then
yeah.
you will be able to find the words that you can
Mm.
truly say to that person. Now, I don't know what the letter, he didn't show me the letter.
I was like, maybe it was a good thing you said the patient. Like, right,
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah, but I
that's
thought that was
beautiful.
great. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, like, so my model, I always say, when it comes to repair, with a relationship or within yourself, there's three things: it's patience, tolerance, and endurance, and those kind of work in a triangulation, right?
Yeah.
And when you learn the patience, you know what you're waiting for. When you have the tolerance, you know what your limit is with people and things. And then with your endurance, you understand when it's time to end something and when it's time to start something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful example of that. It's just
Yeah.
knowing yourself in repair.
Yeah. You know, and
Wow.
I talk about language all the time. I talk about even going through my healing journey is that I couldn't have the same conversation with myself today as the same conversation that I had with myself 15, 20 years ago. You understand what I'm saying? Because I
Yeah.
did not have the words or the language to be able to speak to myself. And in this
Hmm.
this podcast, this is what we're learning. We're learning the language that we need to speak with ourselves when we're talking about vulnerability, when we're talking about compassion, when we talk about self-awareness, when we're
Hmm.
talking about self-love, we're talking about all of these things. We have to make
Right.
sure that we find in the right words when we speak into
Yes.
our heart. Because when we speak to ourselves, we're speaking to our hearts.
Yes.
This one speaks louder than anything. I don't care what this say, but this speaks loud. Yeah,
Yes. And when you're aligned, and the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you know is all one sentence,
yeah,
you're not worried about how other people respond or react. You're just speaking your truth.
yeah,
And your truth has no attachment or obligation to anything outside of you, only to yourself.
yeah,
That's how you know it's truly aligned, when you're
yeah,
not worried about the outcome.
yeah. There you go, Dr. Will. There
No.
you go.
Look, and that's a grounder. That's a ground. That's grounding. That's grounding, and that fits in betrayal, by the way, because I know we
Yeah.
were talking about betrayal. So I just think that there's a lot of grounding with betrayal. Like,
Mm.
people think betrayal is like this, like, blowing up moment or this explosion. It's actually the moment you have to ground with the reality. You're having a realization and you're having an actualization at the same
Same
time
time.
when you're going through betrayal. You're like, you're realizing everything, and then the actualization is recognizing the potential of what
Yeah,
was actually happening, and you're like, oh no, I
yeah,
was invested in potential.
yeah. Yeah. And you go through so many waves of emotions. And I think you
Mm.
and I spoke about this about it seems like even grief. Like grief
Yes.
in the relationship, whether it's a working relationship, a friendship, or a lover's relationship, whatever it is in that
Hmm.
moment, whatever that betrayal is, that betrayal killed it.
Yes.
So now you have to figure
Yeah.
out how I'm going to mourn this. How I'm going to mourn this part of whatever it is that I'm feeling, I'm going through. How can I get through there? How can
Yeah.
I get from here to here? You
and
know,
and that's the beginning of it, though. In the beginning of betrayal, you're so hurt that you're actually focused on the validation externally, and as you heal, you look in the validation internally. So it starts
mhm,
out like you're trying to grab for straw, grab for walls, you looking for anything to just validate whatever you got going on,
yeah,
right? And then
yeah,
that's that reactive response. That's that feedback loop of just like, I need to secure, I need to secure, I need security, I need security, please someone
yeah,
help me, like, secure me. And you realize that no one's got you the way that you have to hold you.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Um, Melissa Van Muser, she was a
Mm.
guest that was on earlier and she is actually a betrayal trauma coach,
Ah.
specialist. She's a motivational speaker. She speaks with Tony Robbins. That's who she works with him.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
And she mostly speaks with men. That's most of her group of men, and just sharing her story. But I remember she shared with me, and she was so very open. And I'm trying to remember if it was on the show or after the show. We talked a long time after the show, and she was like, I was so mad. She said, I bust his windows and flat his tires.
It's amazing what you do with that power. It's a powerful emotion. It's a powerful emotion.
Yeah, and she was like, I had to find something to do. She said, because I couldn't keep tearing this stuff up.
I love that you hulked out. Like you hulked out. Right. You hulked out.
So she said she's found ways to, kind of get through. I'm sorry. I can laugh at it now. It's because when you see someone that is healing from that situation, and
Mm-hmm.
it feels good to see them in that moment. It really
Right.
do. I remember in the beginning of the conversation that her and I had, it was like when she was talking and you can hear the I was like, oh, I said, can I ask you something? Is it
Question.
triggering to you?
Question. Real quick. See,
And she, and
that's
she
that
said,
second part though. That's that react and respond. When you
yeah,
start reacting and responding to everything,
yeah,
that's that second stage.
yeah,
You just
yeah,
that's the fire part. Whatever that fire is burning, that's what it is.
yeah.
You can't yeah.
You can't control it. And this is the thing. This is what the misconception with healing that people get. They think, okay, once I'm healed, that's it. Everything goes
I
away.
wish it was like that. I wouldn't have a job if that was the case. I would be so poor. I would be broke. I was like, come back. That'd be terrible.
Like, no, that's a layer. Not even a
Mm-mm.
layer.
Right. That right. I was like, now get the other part.
Right. Yeah. That's oh my goodness. All right, so I got some questions from you. Here we go. Some questions. Some questions for some listeners. All
Okay.
right. What have some questions from our listeners in our Ask I got it Ask Dr. Will segment. That's what I put, an Ask Dr. Will
Oh,
segment.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah,
I
Ask
love it. I
Dr.
always wanted
Will.
a segment. This is exciting. Ooh.
Yeah, the Ask Dr. Will segment. All right, so how do I know if I need therapy after experience betrayal?
Mm. That's a hard question. So the real question is, what does therapy mean to you? Right?
Mm,
Because the truth is I'm always gonna be here. And you come to me not to stay here. Right? And
mhm,
so what is therapy going to do to get you across your hill? Everybody comes in with their own hill. And so for me, it's not my job to remove the hill. I don't change the hill. I change the way you look at that hill, right? And I help you prepare your journey. I might help you guide a little bit. I might put a sign somewhere here and there for you to read, but when you know it is when you realize that your friends aren't doing the thing that's going to change you. You
right.
realize the things you're doing aren't going to change you, and you may have also lost the initiative or the motivation to start changing. I tell a lot of times when people do consultations with me, I go, I'm not here to change you yet. I'm here to adjust with you, because that change means you have to completely remove yourself
Right.
or turn into something else. So I would love to help adjust with you. So then you can feel the strength in yourself to say, I can change.
I like that. So look, I want to share something with you. Last week I had a guest that came on. Susan Snow is her name. Her father
Mm.
was actually a LAPD police officer back in the 80s, and he
Hmm.
was shot by a drive-by shooting from gang
Oh,
members.
wow.
Yeah, white police officer, white boy was
Mm.
shot by gang members from, I believe they were from Compton.
Ah,
So, back then in California, it was
yeah.
wild with it. But
Yeah.
her father was one of the ones who was not into all of that prejudice.
Mhm.
He always taught them a certain way.
Right.
So after her father had gotten killed and stuff like that, the the police department had set her mother, her brother, who actually saw her father get killed. He went to go pick him up from daycare, and they killed him in front of his father. So his father kind of saved his life by jumping on top of him. All right.
Wow.
So they had, sent them to three different therapists. Each one had their own therapist for a year.
Mhm.
And when she went to this therapist, he never asked her about how was she feeling about what had happened, how her losing her father. They just kept asking her about her relationship with her brother and her mother. And so
Ah.
she said every time she went once a week. She said every time I went, I was just hoping that he would ask me something about my father. Was asking me because there was a lot of things that was dealing with that day. It was on Halloween, and they had
Mhm.
gotten into an argument, her and her father. They were really close, got into an argument,
Mhm.
and she never seen him again.
Oh, yeah.
Then when they had brought them to where everything was happening. Her mom made her leave, sent her to her friend's house while the mom and the son was still there. And then all of the news were about the mom and the boy and kind of left her outside of things. So this baby
Ah.
going through a whole bunch of the emotions of things. But the one person who she felt was her protector and who was here with him, her last words to him, they were arguing. And so she
Mm.
hasn't had a chance to be able to,
Really
even
resolve.
to heal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
not
closure. Yeah,
yeah,
there's no closure.
no closure. So
Mm.
their last session, he told her, "Well, you're all healed now, and you should be good."
Mm.
So she went the next 30 years with a big mask on her face, just going through,
Yeah.
just going through life, not
Yeah.
saying a word to anyone until she saw. I believe it was a school shootout. Her her shop was a few doors down around a corner,
Mm.
and she saw it on the news, and
Yeah.
it triggered her. It triggered her.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that's when her husband told her, either you gonna go get some help, or I'm gonna send you to the hospital, and they just gonna lock you down. And she went
Mm.
and got help, and she said this probably was the best thing that she ever. She said, I literally had to go to someone that would truly specialize in betrayal, not only betrayal, but even grief. Someone
Yeah.
losing someone like
You have to
that.
go to specialist, yeah.
Yeah. So this is my next.
And that's so hard to hear, and
Yeah,
mm, that's
it
so hard to
is.
hear.
It is. So this goes into my next question. What should I, and this is what they say, what should I look for in a therapist who specializes in betrayal trauma?
Yes. Um, First things first, I would ask them what their philosophy of healing is. What's
Mm,
your philosophy of healing? And that'd be the first thing. The second thing would be, um, is the betrayal focused on relationships? Is it focused on family? Is it focused on individual? Is it focused on childhood? There's so many different types of betrayal. And so I would highly recommend them doing a consultation. And then the third thing would be, um, they're gonna hate this, but well, the therapist will hate this if you ask them this. Ask them what their clinical scope is and what does it mean. And so what that does for you, it lets you understand how they look at the world as a
hmm
therapist. And if you don't agree with the way that they look at the world, then that lets you know if they might or might not be a good fit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so for me, my healing is a lifestyle for me. That's a belief of mine, right? The second question, I'm understanding that for me, I work with all types of betrayal because I made sure I specialize. So what you're asking is for specializations,
hmm
right? And I have about 13 to 15 types of specializations. And then the last part is for me, I'm a postmodern therapist. So I don't believe anything is right, wrong, good, or bad. Things are just are. And the more you tell your story, the less you become of it. And so for me, I don't care how bad you were. I don't care how good you were. I don't care how right you were. I don't care how wrong you were. I care about who are you, right? You have a in what mental age are you? What emotional age are you? And what biological age are you? Right? We have ages in ourselves. And so
hmm
I want to understand that. So that's the quickest way is kind of understanding how they look at the world. Because if you look at the world differently than me, then we're not even using the same language together.
Right.
And that's a lot of learning that we have to, and that goes right back to your language thing, being
Yeah.
very impeccable with your language.
Yeah. That thank you for saying it, because a lot of people don't know. They don't even know the questions to even ask the therapist. They just go there and think
Hmm.
that that's going to help them or fix
Right.
it. I even like
Right.
what you said earlier. I'm not here to fix it. I'm
Mm.
helping you to see it,
Adjust. Yeah.
adjust it, to see it in a different perspective of what is best to work for you. You know,
Yeah.
um, that was a good question. That was
That was really good. Yeah.
and that was a great answer. That was
Thank you. Look, look. Whew, well, good. Is there a commercial yet? I was like, my back hot. Your people be asking questions. Okay.
that was a great that. I was thinking like, damn, that was a great question because as you was answering, I'm like, have anybody ever?
Mhm.
No, I don't think so. I think especially when
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of therapists ask you what you want, what you need, and those questions. And so
Yeah.
there's never a time where they can ask
Mhm.
the questions of the therapist to even see if they're aligned.
Yep.
And like
My
as
first
soon as
consultation is 7 minutes. My consultation is 15 minutes long. In 7 of those minutes, you're learning my entire academic life, everything I study. And at the end, I go, "Are you curious about anything else about me? I need to know. I'm no stranger. This is no danger. I'll even tell you
and
my
that's
ups and
beautiful.
downs, right?
Mhm.
I'll tell you my ups and downs. Like I'm really good at this. I'm not good at this. I tell people I'm really smart, but also if I'm wrong, correct me. I'm okay with being wrong, as
Yeah,
long as you feel seen.
yeah, yeah,
This is what it is.
yeah. All right, lastly, can therapy really change one perception of the person who betrayed them?
Hmm. Two things. I'm a therapist, not Jesus. I will not wash away your sins,
I'm sorry.
and or theirs. I will not. And therapy happens in the session, but healing happens in the application. So I will do everything I can to prepare you. But if you don't get on that field, you will not play.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I like that. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. I like that.
Yeah.
Dr. Will, thank you for those very insightful answers. Like for real. To
Hmm.
recap on the therapy plays a crucial role, it's not just about coping, but truly healing and gaining strength from these experiences of betrayal. I love the way that you put that. That's like I'm giving you the game ball. And if you don't play, if you don't go out there and play, how would you know?
How would you know? How would you know how much you've grown?
Right. Exactly. Right.
Hmm.
Right. I like that. I like that. But you know what, Doctor? Well, guess what?
Huh?
It's time to wrap it up.
Oh, look, time. Look, the time is. Look at that. Look, we did good. We did good. I tried to stay
Yes.
in the pocket. I tried. I tried to stay in the pocket. I tried to stay in the pocket.
For real. But again, Dr. Will, thank you. Thank you. It's always be so good right on time with the both of us here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
do. It
That's
do.
great.
It do. And to my listeners, I want y'all to remember that healing is not just possible, it's within your reach. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast and look out for tomorrow's episode where we continue to explore the powerful themes in healing and self-love. Dr. Will, if you have any last words that you want to say?
Yeah. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
I know that's right. So if you have any more questions or need resources, make sure you check out our notes and visit our website. So until next time, keep embracing this beautiful journey. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.